Hello everybody, I'm Miss Jessica from EVPL McCullough, and today we are going to be doing another amazing STEAM video. And STEAM stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, Art, and Mathematics. Well, today we are going to be seeing how to test to see if a liquid is an acid or a base. Now, you may know what an acid kind of tastes like. It's something that almost always is kind of a sharp taste or a sour taste. Can you think of anything that you might have eaten that might have that kind of a taste? Lemons have that. That's definitely an acid if you eat a lemon or drink lemon juice. Now, this is something that is really, really neat. Red cabbage can help us test to see if something is an acid or a base. Now, red cabbage contains something, a chemical that is very, very important. And when we are talking about a pH indicator, and I'll get more to that in just a moment, that's what helps test an acid or a base. Now, red cabbage has this really long word in it. It's anthocyanins. Anthocyanins. So red cabbage contains this chemical, and that is something that will actually help test for pH levels or to see if something is an acid or a base. Now there is something called a pH scale, and though it goes from 0 to 14. So here's our pH scale. Now, acids are all the way down at this end. Those are going to have a pH level that is really, really low, where bases are going to be over at this end. They're going to have a pH level that is really, really high. So water, which is pretty neutral, will probably be a 7, where vinegar, which is pretty acidic, that's going to be over here around a 2 or a 3 on the pH scale. Now, red cabbage can help us know where something is on the pH scale because the color will tell us if something is an acid or a base. So we're going to be using all kinds of different liquids, and we're going to be testing them using our red cabbage, and these things are going to possibly turn color. So if they are acidic, they're going to be kind of over here in these pinky reds. But if it's a base, we're going to see more of like a bluish green and maybe even a yellow. So I'm going to talk about how to get started with this. All right, so we need a couple of things. The first thing you're going to need is red cabbage. And I just picked this up at the grocery store. Now there's a couple of ways to do this to get your red cabbage ready to use as a pH tester. One of the ways is using a blender. Another way that you can do this is that you can actually get some water and your cabbage and boil it for about 10 minutes on your stove, and that will create the liquid and kind of get the chemicals that we need out of the red cabbage and break it down, so then that water will be ready. But I'm just going to use a blender today. Now, as always, it is very, very important that you check with your grown-up before doing any of these science experiments or getting out any of these things. Okay, so to get our red cabbage water ready, you just peel off a couple of leaves, which I went ahead and already did, and you're just going to put them in your blender. Now, I've got some water here, and I'm actually going to pour my water into my blender. And you can see that I want it pretty full, not all the way to the top, but I did about, 2/3 or 3/4 of the way full. And always make sure to put your lid on your blender before you start it. I don't know if you have ever done that before, but I definitely still have some things on my ceiling from the time I forgot. All right, I'm gonna make sure my blender's all locked and ready. I'm gonna turn it on. And I'm actually gonna go to liquefy because I want this to turn into a water. So we're gonna get it going. Ready? Oh my goodness. And I could go even more to make sure that this is really broken down. Okay, so now we're gonna use this water for our science experiment, but I don't know if you can see this, there's still chunks in here. I don't want that in my science experiment. So here's some that I made earlier. I'm gonna take my pitcher and I'm actually gonna put a strainer over it. And you can see the chunks that I had from earlier. And I'm even going to double up and put a coffee filter in here so that it definitely catches all of those chunks. Now, if you don't have a strainer like this, you could also use a funnel and just put your coffee filter in the funnel. Okay, so now I'm gonna pour this into here and we're gonna strain out the chunks of cabbage. Now, I will also tell you, if you are not familiar with working with cabbage, it is very smelly. So I am very sorry that not only are you going to be a scientist and do an amazing science experiment, you also might make your kitchen very smelly. All right, so then we just pour that through our filter. And you can hear it straining the liquid out. And leaving behind all of that extra cabbage that didn't get quite chopped up into really fine pieces in our blender. All right, so I'm gonna show you, you can see there is still a lot in this filter. So that's why we wanna filter it out to make sure we're just getting the liquid and not all this messy cabbage that's still in there. All right, so we have got some water now to use. So here's our water that we're going to use as a pH indicator. So this is going to help us test a bunch of different things to see if it's an acid or base. Okay, so how we're going to do that is we're going to pour some of this into a cup. And I got some clear cups just so it can be easier to see. But when I went to the store, they didn't have the plain clear cups. They only had these kind of weird, like wavy looking clear cups. So I'm sorry, but I think it looks kind of fancy. And we're gonna pour some water into our cup. It doesn't have to be a lot. Now, some of the liquids that we're going to be testing, we're gonna go through those very quickly. I have some soda. I definitely want to see if this is an acid or a base. We've got some orange juice. We have some sugar water. I've even got some soap to make some soapy water. I have lemon juice because I know this is acidic and I'm very curious as to what color it's going to turn. I have some baking soda that I will mix into some water. We've also got some baking powder. I will mix this into some water. Now we also have an antacid tablet. Now antacid tablets, and if you do this, you'll want to get the kind that's effervescent, which means that when you put it in the water, you get all the little bubbles that come up. This is something that produces carbon dioxide. So I wonder if carbon dioxide is an acid or a base. Okay, we've also got something else that really smells. So putting cabbage water with vinegar is going to be very smelly. I can't even imagine what that's going to smell like. All right, and I think that was everything that I was going to test. So we've got lots of different liquids. So I'm going to get some more cups ready, just like this, get our liquids ready, and then we're going to start pouring them in to see if it's an acid or a base. What color is it going to turn? Okay, so we've got our cabbage water, we've got our cups, and we're going to make some different cups with our cabbage liquid that I put back here. I've got all kinds of different liquids to test, and you can test all kinds of different things at your house. If you have milk, or if you have different kinds of juice, like apple juice, you can test all kinds of things. Okay, so we're gonna pause, and then we're gonna get started. Okay, we're back and we're ready to start testing our liquids. Now, a couple of things that I did not mention before. One, I definitely put down a plastic tablecloth on my desk just in case I had any spills. The other thing is that I also have a lot of paper towels handy. I've got these, I've got some back here. So I've got lots of things to help me as I'm doing this to make sure that I'm not making too big of a mess. The other thing is that I did get some popsicle sticks or craft sticks just to help me with stirring, but you can just use a simple spoon if you've got that at home. The other thing is, and this is just a little side note, I was doing some painting last night, and so I have very red fingers, and it's from paint. It's actually not from this. It's from last night, and it stained my skin a little bit. So that's what that is. It is not from the cabbage. Okay, so I went ahead and poured our cabbage water into my cups, and we're going to start testing. Now, depending on what color things turn will help tell us if it is an acid, which is way down here, or if it's a base, which is up here. Okay, so let's see what happens. All right, so we're gonna start with just plain old water. And this is just tap water. So let's see what happens when I pour that in. Nothing, stayed pretty purple. Okay, well, let's try soda. I'm very interested in this because I know I drink soda and I wanna know, what am I putting in my body? Whoa, I don't know if you could see how red this turned. It's kind of a deep, dark red. So we'll stir that in together. So that is actually pretty close to kind of in this middle right here. Well, that's interesting. Okay, let's find out when we add some baking soda. And I just put some baking soda into a cup. Let's see what color that turns. Huh, that gave us kind of almost like an aqua color or a blue color. So that's pretty close to a base. So that's kind of a fun blue color. Okay, what about orange juice? Let's find out what orange juice. Now, orange juice does have citric acid in it. So it is one of those fruits that does have an acidic component to it. So let's see what happens. That definitely turned pink. Wow. That's definitely on the acid scale. All right, let's try vinegar, which is very smelly, and already cabbage water has a pretty strong smell. So let's find out what happens when we put vinegar in there. Oh my gosh, that turned such a bright pink. Wow, that's definitely down here on the acid side. Okay, what about lemon juice? Lemon juice is definitely acidic. Again, it has that citric acid in it already. So let's pour that in there. Yeah, just what I expected. That is also definitely an acid because that definitely turned pink. And this one is also a very bright pink. Okay, what about water and baking powder? So I'm actually just going to add just straight baking powder in here instead of adding water to it. Let's see what happens. There's already kind of water in here from when I made the cabbage water. Whoa, that turns kind of a light purple. So it's kind of in there, kind of in the middle of the scale. Oh, let's see what happens when we add soapy water. So I just put a couple of pumps of soap, and I just used Purell Healthy Soap and added some water to it. So let's see what happens. Huh. That just turned kind of a light purple. So definitely changed it just a little bit, which is interesting when we compare it to our water from earlier. which just kind of kept it like a bluish purple, but they're definitely a little different. All right, our next one is water and sugar. So I just made some sugar water. I put sugar into a cup and then poured some really, really hot water in there so it would dissolve. So let's see what happens with that. Not too much with that one either, just kind of stayed neutral. Huh. All right, our last one is an antacid tablet. So this is an effervescent tablet and it produces carbon dioxide. So when we put it in there, it's going to start bubbling and producing all kinds of fizzing. And so putting that carbon dioxide in there with that cabbage water, I wonder what's gonna happen. Well, definitely is turning kind of a pinky color, kind of a purpley color. So we're still kind of here in this middle of the pH scale. Oh, now that we're getting more in there, it's getting lighter. So we're kind of moving down this scale to get more of an acid. Yep, definitely turning a pretty light color, kind of a light purple. So looking at all of these, I would have to say that the lemon juice is definitely the most acidic because it is definitely way down here on this color scale and definitely bright. I would also say the vinegar is also pretty acidic. Now this one has kind of more of a red tint to it where this one's a light pink. So maybe this one is even a little more acidic. The orange juice has kind of a cloudy red to it, so it's definitely down here on that acid scale. And even the soda, that's definitely got some acid in there. Now the water and baking soda, water and sugar, those definitely stay pretty neutral. So about where they should, right in the middle of the scale, where the soapy water, that got a little bit further on the base because we started getting into here some bluish purples. And the water and the baking powder, that definitely kind of got a dark blue. So it's definitely over here in kind of the base area. So pretty neat that you can go and see if it's an acid or a base, the different liquids in your house. And you can see, okay, where would they be on the pH scale? So zeros are really acidic, and then 14s are way over here, they're yellows. We didn't really have too much that was in this greenish yellowish area, so that's pretty interesting. Now you can find acids all over the place in nature. We actually have acids in our own body. We have acids in our stomach that helps break down our food. We have lactic acid in our muscles that helps when we're exercising. And then there's also some bases and in our body too that also help break things down. Now, we also will find these things in nature. So we found where this could be a pH indicator in red cabbage. So when you start seeing the different colors in things like leaves, when they're changing colors, and those things are also in there, that really big word that we had earlier, and oh, my paper's way over there, where we had the anthocyanins that you could find that will tell you different colors of pH. These are pH indicators, which are really, really cool that nature can do that for us. Now you can also buy strips of litmus paper and you can also test using that, and you just dip the paper into a liquid and it will automatically tell you where it's at on the pH scale or if it's an acid or a base. So hopefully this was a pretty neat experiment to see. It's not something that's terribly difficult to set up. Remember, always check with your grown-up before you use a blender to chop up red cabbage. But once you've got your cabbage water, it's pretty easy to test with different liquids to see what color they're going to turn. And these were the liquids that I had available to me, but I wonder what you have in your house. Do you have coffee? Like I said earlier, different fruit juices, maybe even different waters. So tap water versus bottled water versus sparkling water, distilled water. I wonder if that does anything different. So lots and lots of possibilities. So I hope you had some fun today. Thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget to check out our social media. We definitely post all kinds of fun things that we're doing on Facebook. We also have a YouTube channel, EVPL Library, and that, if you like and subscribe, you will always be notified when we post all kinds of fun videos like this. If you check out our website, evpl.org, that has a calendar of things that are coming up so you can see when you should tune in or when you can find out some information of fun things to do at your house. So thank you so much for joining me. I'm Miss Jessica at EVPL McCullough, and I'll hopefully see you again soon. Bye!